Israel and Iran are at war. At the time of writing, it has not yet been formalized. But after the events of the pre-dawn hours of June 13th, it is all but done. Israel has launched a massive series of airstrikes, sabotage, and targeted assassinations across Iran, targeting the country's nuclear facilities, military leadership, and ballistic missiles. Iran has made clear its intention to strike back. The United States is prepared to respond with devastating force, and the time for negotiations has finally passed. This is the showdown the Middle East has been preparing for decades, and it is finally here. Israel and Iran, 0 seconds to midnight. Here's what you need to know before this happens. Now, before we get started, we have a very important point to make. Everything we discuss today is accurate to the best of our ability as of 9 a.m. local time in Tehran on Friday, June 13th. We work to produce and publish this episode as quickly as possible. Indeed, I am going on vacation this afternoon. I was not even supposed to be in the office this morning, but they are fighting. But we can almost guarantee that the situation will have changed even more by the time you see this episode. Rest assured that we will be back to cover the main events in due course. Indeed, I will be back from vacation next week. Oh, now that we have that out of the way, here we go. The explosions began at approximately 3 a.m. Again, local time in Tehran. In Jerusalem, the attack was dubbed Operation Rising Lion. Among Israel's most important targets was a key uranium enrichment facility called Natanz, where Iran was working to produce enough uranium at the appropriate enrichment levels so it could create weapons-grade material in short order. Images circulating on social media immediately after the first wave of Israeli strikes showed Natanz ablaze, with smoke billowing high into the sky. Natanz is now heavily damaged, according to the head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization. But Natanz was far from Israel's only target. The Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, hit a number of sites linked to Iran's nuclear program, as well as its missile launch facilities and command and control infrastructure, according to Israeli defense sources. A number of hits were reported across the capital, Tehran, including 6 separate military bases, 2 secure command posts, and residential units housing important Iranian figures. The headquarters of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was reportedly ablaze by the time the first strike ended, with some sources indicating that a crisis meeting between senior officials was in progress when the facility was hit. Iran declared a state of emergency and response across the country, although a second wave of strikes was already underway by the time it took effect. Hours later, Israeli sources reported that the IDF had recorded around 300 successful hits, with that number expected to rise as the situation evolved. According to a wide range of sources speaking anonymously to the world press, Israel's first wave of attacks went far beyond airstrikes. Israel's Mossad-linked intelligence units operated across the country, particularly in urban areas, carrying out a series of sabotage and targeted assassinations. While the details of these operations are still unclear, at the time of writing, it is clear that cultivating assets and preparing on the ground for an attack of this scale would have taken years. In addition to senior officials, Mossad targeted Iran's air defense systems, as well as its ballistic missiles and launchers. Israeli intelligence sources said the country also created a false sense of security for Iran just before the attack, including a vacation for Benjamin Netanyahu in the upcoming wedding of his son. Just as important were the locations Israel hit, so too were the individuals it killed. Among the confirmed dead were Hossein Salami, the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and Mohammad Bagheri, the chief of staff of the entire Iranian army. Also among the dead were Ghulam Ali Rashid, the commander of the central headquarters of the Iranian General Staff, and Ali Shamani, a senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader, who had been tasked with being Iran's chief negotiator in working on a new nuclear deal with the United States. In total, Israel is believed to have killed a significant portion of Iran's top military leadership, if not most or all of the country's most important military leadership. Equally important is the list of people who have survived so far. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, President Masoud Rassi, Foreign Minister Abbas Mousavi, and Defense Minister Aziz Nasser Zadeh. None of them are believed to have been targeted in this wave of Israeli strikes, but that may change in the future. At the time of writing, Iran has only launched a limited retaliation, with the IDF reporting that Iran has launched a number of suicide drones toward Israel. While the reason for the lack of a larger immediate response has not been directly confirmed, it is hardly a secret. Israel's attack appears to have been quite clearly aimed at destroying Iran's command and control infrastructure. And Israel appears to have succeeded. Iran's supreme leader has already appointed several replacements, including a new chief of staff for the armed forces. But that's only a small part of what Iran will need to do in the coming days. Given the scale and scope of what Israel has accomplished, it will likely take some time for Iran's surviving military leaders to even understand who should be in charge. Now, Iranian MiG-29 fighters have